Thank you everyone for coming. I guess because the door's closed, we should get started. I'm Josh. This is Sam. Our talk today, Transcending Genre, UEFN and the Future of Game Development. This is a intro level talk to UEFN, really high level, going over what UEFN is, what it's made of, what the ecosystem is, publishing, economy, engagement payout, that sort of thing. And so the first half will be, very introduction level content, and then Sam's going to take over. He's built a cool demo for us today, and he's going to show that off and go a little deeper than I will on his time in the editor and tell you all about that. All right, so just some introductions. I'm Josh. I've been with Epic for 3 years now, but before that, I was a creator myself, working in Fortnite Creative, building games for 2 years. Right now, I'm on the creator evangelism team for UEFN, and so what that means is I come to events like this, I meet with creators, developers, studios, and help them with their UEFN journey. And then we have Sam here, who is also an evangelist. All right. So yeah, let's get started with an introduction to the toolbox and the ecosystem. So like I mentioned before, we're here today to talk about Unreal Editor for Fortnite. And generally just the Fortnite ecosystem. So Unreal Editor for Fortnite, or UEFN as I'll call it a lot in the talk, it's a development tool for building and publishing games directly into Fortnite. So Fortnite is a massive game, which I'm sure we've all heard of. We have 100 million monthly active users, and developing for Fortnite means direct access to those players when you publish a game into the ecosystem. What this means is that instead of spending months to years with no easy path to users as you're making your game from scratch and releasing it independently, creating in Fortnite gives you a clear path to a scaled audience. And on top of that, because Fortnite and UEFN are underpinned by the powerful Unreal Engine 5, you're still enabled to work with best-of-class tools that you know and love. And with Fortnite, you have that huge player base in front of you. And so you have tried and true tooling, but you also have a great path to getting a game in front of people. And on top of that, Fortnite, if you guys have dived in, we handle things like matchmaking and monetization out of the gate. And so you really get to focus on making a great, fun game. And then when you're ready, you can just publish to the world with a click of a few buttons. So let's talk more about that. We like to think of the life cycle of your game on Fortnite in 3 stages. And so, like I just mentioned, using UEFN, you make your game. Maybe it's a team deathmatch or an RPG, whatever it is. When you're ready to release it to the wild, through our creator portal, you publish your game. You're uploading the thumbnail, the trailer, description that you want players to see. And then you promote that game, however you see fit. And after players hop in, then you get paid, thanks to our engagement payout program. Now, just because we have it laid out as a flywheel here doesn't mean that all these stages happen exclusively. Oftentimes, creators are in multiple phases of this at once across all of their games in development. And because of the fast iteration and the publishing times, you can get to market, get feedback, and make improvements to your game, all while still getting paid. Now, there's a lot of info. I want to break it down and dive into each section more specifically for you. So I'm going to get started focusing on the first one here, which is making a game. So like I said before, UEFN is a development tool that at its core is a hybrid of Unreal Engine 5 and Fortnite Creative. What this means is that your workflow will look a lot like it does in UE. You'll have access to a ton of familiar tools that you might see on the slide here, like Sequencer or Control Rig, the Material Editor, but you'll also find a ton of unique features coming from Fortnite itself, like devices, prefabs, props, items. But if you want to go truly custom, UEFN, of course, allows you to import all of your own static and skeletal meshes, as well as animations, textures, audio. Ultimately, your game can look just like Fortnite BR, or it can look and feel like something new and really capture the style of your IP. This is an area where you can really start getting your game and setting it apart from everything else that's out there in Fortnite. And when it comes to creating gameplay, devices are the main entry point. So each device does something different, such as teleporting a player or granting an item, awarding XP, or changing class. But these awesome little things, they stack together like building blocks, allowing you to create full, fleshed out game mechanics from the start of your game to the end. And so, walk with me here. If you could take a timed objective device and build a search and destroy game from it, really all you need is, have this objective device. It allows players to interact, stop and start a timer. But if you connect it with an explosive barrel, once the timer runs out, the explosive barrel goes off. And if you connect that to an end game device, activate the timer ends, bomb blows up, game ends. And that's search and destroy. That's an entire game loop set up with just 3 devices. Now I could lean in, I could polish it more, I could add classes or a detonation remote, but you get the idea. You start with a couple devices and you can keep adding more on until you have this really in-depth game loop. But if that's not enough control for you, then you're in luck. When we released UEFN last year, we also released it with a brand new coding language called Verse. And Verse is designed to be the future of Fortnite, but eventually broader game dev as well. It's proven great for writing real-time, open-world multiplayer games with a large overall emphasis on gameplay. So it uses the best of functional programming, object-oriented programming, and imperative programming, and it combines them into a language that our creators have come to love. And so you can combine Verse with the functions of many of those devices that I mentioned before to really push the boundaries of what may have initially seemed possible as you're hopping in and experimenting. And I'm not kidding when I say this, that every day my mind is blown going on Twitter and seeing what our creators are doing with Verse. It's stuff we never intended for, but because it's so open and there's so many different avenues, they're just pushing the boundaries every day. It's incredible. All right. And as you're doing all this wonderful gameplay development, it never hurts to make sure that you're heading in the right direction. So nobody wants to finish their mechanics and then realize it's all broken from the start. And luckily, that's what Live Edit is for. Live Edit allows you to playtest and view things from the exact perspective of a player in the exact same environment that the game will take place in. And because this all takes place in Fortnite live, it means that your friends or teammates can hop into the same session, your edit session, just by launching Fortnite and joining your party. And as long as their permissions in Creator Portal are set to be allowed to do so. Any change that you or your friends make in this live edit creative session is going to automatically sync with UEFN. And so it creates a really cool workflow where you can be in person, moving things around, getting the scale of things, while also, not having to worry about uploading it back to UEFN because it's all happening live as you go. But that's not the only way to collaborate with partners. No, UEFN also boasts its own revision control system here. We call it URC, or Unreal Revision Control. And URC acts like any other source control system, allowing you to check out assets and check in changes when working collaboratively with a team. It all takes place right in the editor, which is the really cool thing. It makes working on your game a fast and collaborative experience with your team. And so if I just added a new building to my game and I want my teammate to take a look, it's as easy as clicking the check-in button in the bottom right of the editor. And, 30 seconds, my teammate sees the sync button, clicks sync, and now he has that building and can give me feedback on it. If that doesn't convince you, though, if your team is already set up in Perforce, you have a system going there, you can also hook up Perforce and continue on with that system. So you have options there. All right. With all this talk about what UEFN can do, I want to spend a little bit of time looking ahead at what you'll be able to do. So you may have seen our UEFN roadmap from various GDC talks, but some things have changed since then. We've got some new items, some moved items since the last time out. Seeing as we're already through Q1 and Q2 now, let's focus on everything past that. So next quarter, we've got cool camera features like the orthographic camera, side-scroller control device, and some improvements to the orbit camera. These all really allow you to leave the traditional Fortnite sense of the game and make it your own. Other than that, we have the creator profile link, which is going to allow you to hook a QR code up in your map and send players to your creator profile where you have your Discord or your Twitter or your YouTube, and really start building communities and connecting with your player base. Oh, and then the long requested, we're working on the ability to use UEFN during Fortnite's downtime. Creators have been asking for that since it came out, and that is planned also for Q3. Now, if we look ahead into Q4, we've got some incredibly exciting features like physics, custom items, first-person mode, text chat, proximity chat. All those are pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I have to dive into what any of those do. You all get the idea. But those are huge features that are going to redefine what a UEFN game looks and feels and plays like. We've also got Follow Creator coming up, which will, again, allow you to develop and retain an audience of players. Although unlike the profile device, this one is going to be all in Fortnite, and so they'll be able to go and discover, click the follow button, and keep up with the stuff that you put out there. And so all in all, we still got a lot of great tools coming this year. So I hope you guys are excited. If any of these roadmap items did interest you and you want to get your hands on the features as soon as possible, you're in luck. We just recently announced the Creator Feedback Program, giving creators the opportunity to be a part of focus groups and provide feedback on upcoming features and tools and updates before they're released to the public. So getting started is easy. You fill out your application form, you tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and why you're excited to join the program, and then our team reviews the applications and will reach out to the selected participants. The program is open to all eligible creators who meet these minimum criteria. You need to be an active member in the Island Creator Program and in good standing with the program. You'll need to have published an island within the last 6 months. You need to have no community guideline violations in the past year. And your creator account adheres to the Fortnite Island Creator Content Guidelines. All right. And after you've used all these tools and more to make your game, it's time to publish it to users across Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, PC, Android, and more. So the first step to publishing is ensuring that you're signed up for our Island Creator and Engagement Program. You can head over to create.fortnite.com to get started there if you haven't. To be eligible, your Epic account must be at least 30 days old before applying. At least 7 of the last 30 days must have included time editing in Fortnite Creative or UEFN or Unreal Engine. Or alternatively, you'll also be eligible if you spent and redeemed $73 in the last 90 days on Fortnite in-game products. That's a little way around it if you are eager to get something out there right away. That was a lot of info, but once you've entered the program, the Creator Portal will be your one-stop shop for everything that you need as a creator, whether that be publishing, building your creator page, or managing your team. So more on publishing. When you're all set up now, you've made your game, and you're approaching its release. But before you send it out to the world, on Creator Portal, you'll be able to routinely playtest your game with your team or other private groups. And once you've tested it as best as you possibly can, in Creator Portal, you're ready to release it. We'll ask you to fill out some information about your game, such as your game title, a description, a thumbnail, a trailer. And then here you'll also apply tags to the game that help players identify it. And once that information is filled out, the last step on your end is completing an IARC survey to ensure that your game aligns with the various approved ratings in Fortnite. And so finally, you submit your game off to our content reviewers who determine that it's following Fortnite's Island Creator rules, This tends to take under a couple hours. It'll never take more than a day. And after that, it's ready to go live. So once your island is out there, you can and should continue to iterate and manage your island's version, thumbnail, and trailer from the creator portal. Players will want to see your game improve and change over time. That's how we be competitive in the ecosystem. So making updates to your island also gives you a good reason to promote on social media and bring players back in. So now that your game is live, it's time to get players on board. There are a ton of ways to go about marketing and getting players into your game, but at the core of it all is Discover, which is our island browser directly in the Fortnite lobby. And it's the main way to find and play games in the ecosystem. It's sourced by algorithmic rows based on a number of factors, but it's separated into categories like most engaging or genre-specific ones like practice. There is an exception to this, which is our hand-curated row called Epic Picks. We use Epic Picks to show off some seriously incredible experiences, and so I encourage you all to apply to it once you have that great game made. Now, Discover isn't the only way for players to find your game, though if they have the name or island code, they can use search and go find it directly right there. To get players searching for your game and have it surfacing in Discover, we highly recommend that you back your game with a great marketing strategy, like anything else, whether that be social media or influencer campaigns. Bringing players directly to the game only helps it succeed. And so after you started gaining some traction, you'll want to leverage all of the available island analytics to help you build a strong game that keeps players coming back. So data is pulled daily to give you a look at the number of players that are visiting, how long they're sticking around, how many return. And then on top of that, we've introduced more niche analytics based on other metrics that we look at for engagement payout. So things like playtime surrounding V-Bucks spent, new players to Fortnite, players returning to Fortnite after some time away from the game. All of this is available, and we're currently working on bringing everything directly into Creator Portal. So there's two different spots for monetization analytics and just general all your island analytics, but we're working on combining those and having them directly in Creator Portal. And then to get even more in depth, you can use the analytics device throughout your island to analyze player activity. You can tie this to specific events on your island, and so you can really figure out where players are, what they're achieving, when are they leaving, how many times has this been activated, that sort of thing. And then after making your game, publishing your game, gaining some traction, the next step is going to be getting paid. So when it comes to monetization, our goal is to allow you as a developer to focus on making fun, retentive, and engaging experiences, while we pay according to your impact in the ecosystem. And so engagement payout proportionally distributes 40% of the net revenue of Fortnite from our item shop or real money purchases directly to creators and eligible islands and experiences. And to further support developers who choose to work in UEFN, Epic Mega Grants is a program we have that was traditionally for UE, but we've opened it up to UEFN. It's here to help future-oriented teams learn and launch new experiences using UEFN. So if this interests you, make a pitch, submit to our Mega Grants program for UEFN, and we'll take a look at it. It's a great way to get started. There's no reason not to do it. So I recommend, if you have a great idea, if you've already started a game, throw it together, throw it in a pitch, and you have nothing to lose. All right, that's enough of me. Let's bring Sam up.
Hi, folks. I'm Sam. I'm here to live demo UEFN for you today. First up, thanks to Josh for that fantastic introduction. And what I am going to do today is talk to you about the future of game development. So back at GDC, what I wanted to do was take us beyond the traditional conception of what Fortnite is by switching genre and making essentially a top-down, twin-stick, motion-based PvE co-op action shooter, which is an action game but is definitely not Fortnite. However, now we're here in Prague, so the question becomes, what's next? What is next? Well, if last time we switched genres, today we're going to transcend them. And what I mean by that is I'm going to take that top-down shooter framework and I'm going to inject it with a really healthy dose of objective-oriented, team-based PvP combat, and also real-time strategy game elements with capturable points that spawn entities that you can then control en masse like an AI group. As you can see, it looks reasonably exciting, and in sort of traditional game development, building something like that would be a relatively big endeavor, even if you already had that top-down shooter tech. However, this is not traditional game development, this is UEFN, so I'm going to switch to the editor and show you how I made it in a couple of days. So what you see here is some assets from the Talisman demo, which we released around GDC as an example of how far you can take UEFN's tech. And what I'm going to do is show you how I converted that into a series of tiles using our hierarchical scene graph entity prefab system. Yes, that means I should put it over here. Thank you, Josh, with the knowing how technology works. So, what you see here is a bunch of tiles I built from geometry from the Talisman demo. And this is one of those prefabs. So what is this? It is a hierarchical stack of entities. An entity is within the Unreal hierarchy. Above actor, so much lighter in terms of the baggage that comes with it, much more configurable. You configure it with individual components, but still below U object, so it still has all the basic Unreal Engine functionality. And what that means is it's very easy to arrange in a hierarchy. So I can just stack stuff wherever, move it around, and then at each point I can add components with additional functionality, such as collision, AI navigation, lighting, and so on. This is an experimental feature you cannot publish with it yet, but you can opt into it. I recommend getting very familiar with it because it's very much the way things are going. So if I close that, what you've seen so far is not that much different to a blueprint actor in Unreal. You stack a bunch of things, you add components, and then you have a little actor that you can drag around. What is different is that an scene graph prefab is an entity, just like any other entity. And what can you do with entities? You can stack them in a hierarchy. So when I select this room and open it up, what you'll see is it's actually a selection of prefabs that I have combined into an individual space, which means I can update those individual wall and floor prefabs, and it'll update anything that uses them. Or I can go in and override individual settings within my nested prefabs and go, okay, well, for this one, I want my floor grading to be different or whatever else. It allows me to very quickly slot together a huge tile set of stuff from what's a pretty small selection of assets, ultimately. So let's talk about workflow for a second. We're going to go to my level design map, and you're going to see what happens when I design levels. So I am a level designer by trade. I worked in level design for a long time. And so there, I've got a bunch of prefabs, and I just drag them into my map. You've got rooms, you've got corridors, you can just drag stuff around, adjust it, and so on. Let's say you want let's find a junction or something. There's a junction. Let's say you want a junction, you drag that in, and you keep going until you have your entire layout. I'm not going to force you to watch me model a level forever. Instead, I'm going to show you the one I already built, which is this one. So let me close that so we can get a better look. So this is not my entire layout, though. This is half a layout. What I've got here is a big selection of scene graph prefabs that make for half a level because I want to build a PvP map. I want it to be symmetrical. So what I could do here is select all of these prefabs, copy paste them, and rotate them 180. And that is definitely a thing you could do. I don't recommend it. What I would say is instead you can select all of these and group them under a new entity. So group all your prefabs under a new entity, then turn that entity into a prefab. And what that gets you is the prefab that is your entire level layout. And And for that, I'm going to go to my actual level and show you that in action. So whereas before my level layout was this big blob of prefabs that I've moved together until they look how I want. Oh wow, doesn't that look nicer? This, if you look at it, is just two prefabs facing each other. And then if I wanted to update the symmetrical layout, I could update that prefab. It would update both sides of the level. It would remain symmetrical. Everything works together. Obviously, this looks a little fancier than it did before. I'm going to up my scalability. Why not? Make it look real fancy. So this fancy planet is also from the Talisman demo. We are hoping to get that out to you as a template at some point soon. And then you can steal their assets just like I did, because I am not an artist. And then I went through this space. I made it symmetric because it is symmetrical. I propped it out. I lit it. I tried to do a couple things to make it not look all the same. And before we move forward, I am going to run a video which has no enemies in it, so I don't die halfway through it. Give me 1 second. There's a video. Let's make it full screen. And so this is me running through the environment that I've built. As you can see, not only am I transitioning a camera, which I'll get to in a bit, I'm also moving through different post settings. So the exterior is bright, glowy, has chromatic aberration. You run to an interior space, and then it is darker, grittier, uses camera grain, vignetting. It creates a whole different atmosphere, despite the fact that none of this has a roof, so really always outside. I'm also using a mutator, so when you are outside, gravity is lower. It creates a better sense of the world. If I had recorded sound for this video, you would also hear that I have different sound beds for interior and exterior, both pre-recorded and then using patchwork to create dynamic percussion that builds up over time, creating a greater sense of drama and excitement. As you can see, it looks quite different inside. I mean, the biggest takeaway you might have from this is that I have a very dynamic camera the whole time. So let's talk about that a little bit. What I'm actually doing is not using one camera, but 3. I have a zoomed in camera. That's for when you spawn. That comes with the character. And then I have a, let me just get rid of that, which refuses to go away. And then I have my high angle camera, which you get when you run outside, switches to high angle, and the default camera. And all I'm doing there is when you enter the mutator that tracks interior, exterior, I am adding the high angle camera to the player. When you leave that space, I am removing it. And since that camera has a higher priority than the default one, it means that you go to the high angle camera, transitions nicely, transition settings are down here. Now for the actual top-down twin stick control, I'm just using the third-person control device. Really easy to use. I want identical configurations for all players. However, you may notice I don't have 3 cameras. I actually have 6. So what I'm doing is I'm creating my 3 cameras, and then the second team also has 3 cameras. And they have the same settings, but a flipped 180, which means no matter which team you're on, you always spawn bottom left and move to top right, which means you will not get confused in your play space, even though it's symmetrical. Because I can work really hard to make these spaces feel different. There's a lot of work with lighting and setup to do that, but just directionally knowing which way you always go to fight is, just from a game design standpoint, going to make your life easier. And in UEFN, that's an incredibly simple thing to do. So what we have now is we have a team-based, top-down, movement-based PvP shooter, but we don't have objectives. And we don't have controllable AI, which means we haven't really transcended genre into the point where the name of the genre is so long it just becomes game. So let me show you quickly how I set up the objectives, and then we'll get into the AI stuff, which is really fun. So an objective is incredibly simple. It is right here, a timer, an objective device, which is, if I hide that spawner down there, and that VFX, that is an objective. That's actually the VFX for the objective, but I have an objective device down there, I have a mutator and a timer. The mutator turns on the timer when you enter it, turns it off when you exit it, only fires off by opposing team. Time hits 0, I destroy the objective, activate a bunch of VFX, objective complete. This is just standard device usage, nothing complicated at all. However, what I want for the actual AI play is a bit more advanced. So let's take a look at this. What I'm doing here is proximity capturing a pre-placed space, at which point these bots spawn, and I can use a flag to control them. Meaning when I hold it, they flock to me. When I drop it, it becomes their rally point in RTS terminology, meaning they will rally there. This is me getting my ass beat, and then my friendly robot showing up to save me. So we're going to hop over to my AI lab for a second and take a look at how I did that. Let's see. Maps and gameplay lab. Because none of this is that complicated. In traditional development, I have made real-time strategy games. They are enormously complicated. This is not. So this is the same setup for capture as the objective. There is a timer and a mutator. So I'm going to hide the mutator just to get it out of the way. But what those do is activate this, which is an NPC spawner device, and then this flag. So we'll talk about the spawner device first. If you haven't used the NPC spawner, this allows you to create NPCs that are not your standard Fortnite archetype, like a god or a creature, like the brutes and so on, because you're using a character definition to spawn them. This is a character definition. What I am doing is using the guard behavior archetype because I'm making a shooter and I do not want to write new shooter AI. We have shooter AI. I'm doing that. I am, however, overriding pretty much every aspect of it because I'm making a top-down shooter and they play a little differently. This is why tuning is important. A fun video by Sam. Watch me die horribly. Because third-person shooter AI is just not built for that kind of play, so I need to bring everything in. I override a ton of their settings. However, the one that I want to show you today, especially because getting a little low on time, is custom character. What I did was I brought in a new character. If you've seen the Unreal 5 Stackobot sample, you may recognize our old pal Stackobot. I made his cousin a Tacobot because I believe in making things violent. It's always a good idea. And what that I did was I brought the skeletal mesh and not animations, just the mesh and materials over from the Stackobot project, which you can get off the Unreal Marketplace. And then I set them up in a blueprint. However, because they're using the guard archetype, they need to use the guard animation. How do you do that? Very simply, you create an IK retargeter. So let me bring up my IK retargeter. There we go. So what that means is you create an IK rig for each of these assets, which is as simple as right-clicking them and selecting Create IK rig. It will automatically create it for you. You can tweak it from there. And then you set one up as the source. I'm using the mannequin. And one as the target, which is Stackobot with IK rig and mesh. And then if you preview it, despite being very, very different skeletons, they're running the same animation set, which is how I get all those little robots attacking me like guards. So it's very easy to bring in your own rigged mesh. You can really tweak how you re-rig them like that using IK because it's dynamic. You can tweak it in real time. Greg Richardson has some fantastic videos of that on the Epic developer community, specifically for UEFN. I recommend watching them. In my case, I didn't need to do much. It got me my friendly little pink robot. And then all I had to do was use a verse device to control them. So what I did was when I activate the spawner, I also activate this, which is a capture item spawner device with a flag in it. It's a flag I want to use. And then this is an NPC manager device I wrote in verse. That uses an AI leash device. If you don't know what leashing is, it's just what it says. It says you, AI, leash to a specific actor or agent, such as the player NPC, or location, as defined here, and then with an inner and outer radius. They can move between leash points. Their AI will be fully functional, meaning as they move, they'll shoot, take cover, and so on. That gives me a lot of control. So all I do is have this verse device, which is cleverly disguised as that spawner podium in my game, and linked to the flag spawner, the guard spawner, and the leash. I'm going to open up verse for a second. Please bear with me. This will not be boring, I swear. Okay, I don't swear, but I hope. There is my NPC manager. So all I am doing with the NPC manager is tracking the item spawner and the guard spawner and the leash. When I spawn a guard, I add them to an array of guards I'm tracking. When they're eliminated, I remove them from that. It's just subscribing to those events. Once they're spawned and added to the array, if I'm holding the flag, I assign them to be leashed to the player. If not, I leash them to that AI leash actor. Each NPC spawner has its own. And then if you pick up the flag, I go, okay, all the guards that I know about are now leashed to the player. Every time you drop it, I teleport the AI leash to that location, leash all the guards to that, thus they flock to that location. It's as simple as that. And what that gets you is this. This is it working. 2, 1, bam. So they start spawning at this point. I play Benny Hill music because I've sped up. I've left the mini map on so you can see their behavior. They flock to me because I'm holding the flag, move over there. They flock to me. This gives me fully controllable AI, which gives me my working game. So the last thing I want to do as I terribly run out of time is I am going to play a playthrough video of, excuse me, play it and view it full screen, of me playing through a round, and I'll talk about it a little bit as we transition into what time we have left for Q&A. You can see me playing the game. You can see one of my teammates running up the side. This is me going out and capturing one of those points, as I talked about. This may seem familiar from a bit of video I showed earlier, but this is me capturing the spawner. Bots zoom in. This is me playing tactically. I want to take the high ground because I'm a very meme-oriented technician. And so I get up there, and from a strategy game standpoint, owning the high ground in the middle really ties up the enemy in the map. So I want to move some dudes up there. There's an enemy after me right there. I knock them off the map with my sword because I am cool. And I'm getting swarmed by enemies at this point, and I fall off the map because, again, I'm cool. 30 seconds later, I respawn and try again. So here what I'm trying is a little bit of a strategy where I'm going to run through the front line, zoom in, and get up to one of the capture points that's an enemy objective and leave my flag there. One of the fun things with these flags is you have 2 spawners per team, and any teammate can carry the flag, so you can continually be moving the bots about as a tactical option. So I want to tie up the enemy over there while making a run at the objective on the far side. This is a bit that follows one. Sam can't jump. Look at that quality jumping. I wanted to be there. There I am picking up the flag. And I forget that I set it up with 0 gravity outside until I try to jump. You can attack with the flag. I don't recommend it. But here I am rushing the space, dropping my flag for my bots. And then, if I could be honest, just getting owned really, really hard by AI that I wrote myself. So I went back, helped my bots because they were tied up in a battle, killed their enemies, and now you can see they push up and actually let me take the objective. And as this keeps running, we can keep it playing out, but you can get the basic idea. Oh, by the way, when you take out an objective, I start spawning in terrifying aliens that attack everybody and move at like 1,000,000 miles an hour. So the more objectives you complete, the harder it is to complete the rest. So you can see one chasing me through here. I'm in a bit of a duel with my sword and this alien, waiting for my bots to catch up. There's one of my bots coming in, helping me out as we capture this objective. And we are getting very close to the end here. I promise, nice people who are running this talk. But you can see I zoom out the camera when you're about to capture an objective. I also punch in a specific music cue that can't really hear here, and up the percussion. So you can see this base at this point is full of aliens and robots and general bad stuff, but I'm going to have all my robots down here to help me out, right? Right? Oh no, where did they go? So I'm going to move the flag up because maybe they're just not far enough along. I'm going to get absolutely owned if I stay in there. There's a guy with a minigun and a bunch of aliens and a bunch of robots. What happened to my robots? I think it was those giant scary things that happened to my robots, but I think I have enough time to hold it down. They're a bit distracted. I took him out. So 3, 2, 1, victory. And that is my talk. I'm going to take that applause from those people. That was very kind of them. Thank you. Close that. And at this point, I think that's kind of our message, right? You should try out UEFN. It's incredibly powerful. I don't know if we have time left for questions.
All right. Thank you guys for coming, and enjoy Unreal Fest.
Yeah.